you want to do everything? And by everything, I mean everything. I want to grow my business, improve my guitar, build my YouTube channel, play basketball with my son, learn to hold my breath for 5 minutes, get in better shape, go on vacation, learn the splits, write a book, find inner peace. But you don't have time to do all this. And so you start looking up time management to get the best productivity apps or Notion templates or journaling techniques. And you just think, if I found the right system or the right template, I'd be able to do it all. When you try to get all the ideas in your head into the system, it starts to feel overwhelming. And before I figured out how to do it right, I would feel this and I'd give up and just quit everything and go completely into goblin mode. And this kind of sucks because the only ways out of it are to pick up the pieces and start over again or completely give up on your dream. Now, I'm not into giving up, so I had to figure out how to balance everything and make progress without burning out or feeling overwhelmed. Side note, the only time you ever fail at something is when you completely give up. Everything else is just part of the journey. So I'm going to show you the 3 aha moments that I had in the early days of my business and how you can use them for your life. And how now I'm actually able to juggle everything without feeling overwhelmed. I didn't have to work harder, I just had to change my mindset. And to help you understand how I was able to do that, first I want to tell you about where I began in my journey. In 2011, I was juggling everything. I was living in London, I had a full-time job at BlackRock, I opened a gym that was expanding to a bigger location, I had 4 employees, I was working out 5 days a week, I had just run a marathon, and my wife was about to have our first child. I would wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. to coach at the gym and then shower and go to work in the city and then sneak a workout in at lunch, then finish work and head back to the gym to coach, do sales calls or organize the team, and then head home for dinner, pass out, and do it all over again. It was kind of crazy, but somehow I made it all work. And it didn't feel like a burden at the time because I was doing mostly things I wanted to do. I say mostly because that changed pretty quickly when my daughter was born. I'd set up my life so that when she was born, I could take a little time off from my full-time job and still have a bit of time for my business, health, whatever. And my wife and I were both healthy and the baby was healthy, so we figured things would be pretty simple. They weren't. She had some issues the first 2 days of life, and the baby had to be sent back to the hospital and put on an incubator for a week. And that meant around-the-clock monitoring and a ton of fear and worry for my wife and I. In truth, there wasn't much I could do. The doctors and my wife were doing everything, but I wanted to be there for them, and everything else I thought was important really didn't matter anymore. And this was aha moment number 1, time management versus passion management. Most people have a calendar full of meetings, to-dos, and obligations, things they feel like they have to do or they should do. They are commitments they made to others, requirements of their job, or even promises they made to themselves. When you have a bunch of shoulds and have-tos, you don't feel like your time is your own. But when you want to do something, the concept of time doesn't have as much meaning. Now, I wanted to be there for my wife and daughter, even though I didn't have to. So I just canceled all my prior appointments and commitments so I could focus on them. It was uncomfortable, but it gave me the freedom to focus on the thing I wanted to do. Now, that 2-week period was free of obligations, which meant that even though it was a tough situation, we were able to handle it and move forward without worrying about anything else. After my daughter was home and everything was okay, we got to truly enjoy the moments we had together. And this gave me a new perspective on time. I was able to free up all my time to focus on the thing that mattered to me most for 2 weeks. And on week 3, I decided I'd only get myself back involved in the things I wanted to do, which meant my business and my health. My job felt like something I had to do, so I kind of kept putting it off. And a crazy thing happened that week. I enjoyed everything I was doing. I loved coaching classes. I loved doing sales calls. I loved working out. It was all the stuff I wanted to do, and it filled me with joy. It was only when I had to go back to work 3 weeks later that I was hit with the reality, and I realized why people focus so much on time management. If you're doing what you're passionate about, you don't have to manage time, because you're throwing yourself all into it. My favorite way to get started with this is to make a list of everything I want to do. Write down the 10 things you're doing that light you up. And if you can't find any, make a list of 10 things you think would light you up. And then circle the top 2 or 3 and pick one of them to start right now. The next thing I'd do is I'd set a timer and start exploring that thing right now. So if I picked something like how to learn the trumpet, I'd start exploring the cost of the trumpet, where to find a teacher, and even watch a YouTube trumpet lesson. Now, when you're really into something, you'll find time slipping away as you explore it. That is a good thing. Most successful people make their living doing things that don't feel like work to them, but maybe feel like work to other people. It was one of those rabbit holes that led me to start a business, which was aha moment number 2. Now, I never intended to start a business, it just kind of happened. I had gotten into fitness as a way to feel better and lose weight before we moved to London. I worked really hard to find a fitness program that would finally work for me, and when I did, I only had 4 months to make as much progress as I could before I left the country. Now, when I got to London, I searched for a community there to help me with my journey, but most of the ones I found were just getting started, and my 4 months of experience was more than most of them had had. So I helped one of those folks start a business and became a trainer for them, but it was never quite a good fit for me. I always thought, this could be better. I've seen it done better. And I kept learning more and got certifications and acquired knowledge and improved just out of my own curiosity. One day over coffee with one of my co-coaches, I said, I bet we could do this better. And he said, how? And I laid out what was basically a business plan. And we decided to pool our money together to see if we could do it ourselves. And that is aha moment number 2. Treat your life like a science experiment. If you learn the scientific method in school, it's basically observe, hypothesis, experiment, and analysis. We had observed a gym that sort of worked. We set a hypothesis that we could do it better. After a bunch of discussions, we decided to run an experiment to test it by pooling our money and finding a place to start our own gym. We knew that if we were able to generate clients, pay our rent, and pay ourselves back, we would be successful. So that's what we did. The downside of all of this is we would just lose a bit of money and time, but we will have learned what didn't work so we could try again. If you treated your life this way, you take the emotion out of things that feel like big decisions. A scientist doesn't get depressed if their hypothesis is incorrect. They simply review what worked and what didn't work and do more observation and then make another hypothesis. I've done this over and over again with things like guitar, starting a second business, doing business coaching, and even this YouTube channel. You take a passion, explore it a bit, make a hypothesis, and then run an experiment to see how it goes. Let's go back to our trumpet example, where you explored what it would take to learn. The next step would be to commit to a low-stakes experiment. Could you find an instructor and pay for 5 lessons? You would have to spend a bit of money and time, but you get to explore it to see if it's something you want to pursue further. And my favorite way to experiment is by using something I call the 10-30-100 rule. Try playing the trumpet for just 10 minutes a day, for 10 days, to see if you can fit it into your life. If you can, then commit to doing it for 30 days to see if you can make some progress. Finally, if you do make progress, go for a full 100 days to see if you can get good. It's a great way to get started with a hobby or even a side hustle. And that's what I thought when I started my business, that it would just be like a side hustle. That idea only lasted for about a week. Because the truth is, you won't achieve anything meaningful if you have a bunch of hobbies and side hustles. And that led me to aha moment number 3. See, when I thought of my business as a side hustle, it was the thing I did when I finished all my other main hustles. It was also the first thing to go when something more important came up. So I was never able to get to my goal in that side hustle because I could never focus long enough to make real progress. And that's when I learned the most important mindset to adapt when you're managing multiple interests. And it's number 3, work like a lion, not like a cow. Now, this is a quote from Naval Ravikant. When a cow eats, it grazes all day, moving from pasture to pasture and always chewing. This is how most people work, just showing up and doing their job day after day, the same way. When a lion eats, it focuses all its attention and energy on one thing, finding food and killing it. When it finally kills it, it feasts and then it rests. If you work the same way, it means you're going all in on the thing that is right in front of you until you get the result. And then when you get there, you rest and recover. Think about what would happen if you applied this to all your interests. It means you'd go all in for a short amount of time until you got to a certain level, and then put it into maintenance mode until you can focus on it again. For your business, that might mean going all in until you can get your first 5 customers, and then backing off to focus on delivering them what you promised while you regroup to get the next 5. For something like learning the trumpet, it could be going all in until you can play a song, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, or a full day each week, then backing off into maintenance mode of 10 minutes a day so you don't lose the skill. If you have multiple interests, you'll find it's possible to go all in on one thing, recover for a day or 2, and then go all in on the next thing and the next thing without a loss of energy or enthusiasm. because novelty brings its own enthusiasm. When I go all in on things, it might mean that I spend 3 to 4 hours a day on it for a week or an entire weekend where I put everything else on the sideline. By the end, I've gotten the result by eliminating every other distraction, and none of my other interests suffer because I was away for just a week. When it's a longer term goal like losing weight or getting stronger, I'll put the necessary 1 to 2 hours per day in first thing in the morning before anything else and do enough to maintain everything for the next 6 to 12 weeks. It's work to help me start multiple businesses, learn new skills, lose weight, learn the guitar, and so many other things that I'm proud of doing in my life. Now, for those longer term goals, I do find it helpful to use a journal to track my progress, to schedule things and give myself feedback on what's working and what isn't. To find out how I do it, go check out this video over here. And do me a favor, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.